The video for February 6, 2017 is entitled JFK, Interesting Times. John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated by George Bush and others in the cabal when he tried to break the U.S. away from the Illuminati-controlled Federal Reserve government. Before that, he gave a speech in Cape Town where he said, quote, "There is a Chinese curse which says, may we live in interesting times. Like it or not, we live in interesting times. They are times of danger and uncertainty, but they are also more open to the creative energy of men than any other time in history," end quote. Despite his shortcomings, which we all have, he spoke truth. Are we finally ready to be more open to creative energy as he prophesied in a roundabout way? I think many of us are ready to throw off the shackles of fraud and deception through which our natural rights have been stolen. As I said in the previous video, if we are finally ready, the curse can become a blessing. Let me just say right off the bat that the official story of the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy still shows Lee Harvey Oswald as the assassin. Now, if that were true, Lee Harvey Oswald would have had to have been a master creator capable of creating bullets that can make U-turns, because the book depository from which the shooting was supposed to have taken place was behind Kennedy, not in front of him. And yet Kennedy's head jerked back from the impact of the bullet. Hence, Oswald would have had to have been a master creator capable, again, of creating U-turn bullets, capable of going very fast and yet making a U-turn on right at the precise moment needed to strike the target from the front instead of the back. I'm purposely re-emphasizing this to show the absurdity of the lies that our governments have been telling us all of our lives. They are liars. They are run by liars. It's a controlled system of lies. Now, interestingly, I've been awake already for like 3 hours plus, and I watched listened to a 2-hour, almost 2-hour video of a Christian Science practitioner that was sent to me by one of my friends. And no, I'm not into Christian Science, but they were reiterating the whole philosophy of the only thing that's real is what God has created. Everything else is an illusion. Everything else is fiction. Yet it's the fiction, as I keep saying, that we have to deal with. And their method of dealing with it is denial. And a lot of spiritual teachers are in the process of denial of the existence in which we actually find ourselves. And many of them make no effort whatsoever to do anything other than to deny it, to avoid it, to pretend it's not real. And yet most of humanity has to deal with it on a day-by-day basis. Many have lost their lives, and Christian Science says, well, you can't lose your life because it's eternal. Well, there may be a truth in some level of that, but the physical manifestation is not a fiction. It's not real. God created what God created was spiritual. I believe that's true. But the physical manifestation was also created by God, and it is real. And it has been usurped by lies and demonic things. And we need to have that reversed. And I will continue to say that. Yes, there are spiritual practices we can to raise our vibration, to bring us healing in the midst of the illusion. But if it requires a denial of personal experience, I think it's gone too far. We experience what we experience, and that experience can never be not real. It can only be real. We really do experience it. We really do perceive it with our senses. Are our senses no good either? There's all sorts of questions that are raised when I consider things like this. So it is interesting times that we live in, when we are being asked to challenge everything we've been taught, everything we've been told, everything we've believed and then believe has a lie in it. And we've got to be able to separate truth from error, reality from fiction. And we are the real thing. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And the human experience is a real experience for us. It has meaning. It has purpose. I do think that I get distracted, and many of us get distracted in the illusion. Nevertheless, there is something substantial, calling spiritual stuff substantial now, which is a contradiction in terms. I understand that. But it is the substantial basis on which everything exists. It is something created out of nothing, no thing. And yet it is something. So if it sounds confusing, it is, because these, again, are interesting times. And Kennedy, though he did a lot of things that I would not morally approve of. I mean, he was a womanizer and was with Marilyn Monroe and others, as was Bobby Kennedy, and they were both murdered and it was an inside job from the government in both instances, I'm sure, as was Martin Luther King, as were many others that were assassinated in that time frame, as was Abraham Lincoln and others that went before that were assassinated by those criminals that want to rule the world by lies and deception and force. And we need to have a huge, huge turnaround. And it does require a certain percentage, and I don't know exactly what that percentage is, to wake up and to call a spade, to call things what they actually are, not to lie about them, not to twist and turn and make it something other than. We've experienced what we've experienced, and it can all be good. It can all be positive if we will but turn things around in our thinking and allow the good to take the forefront and become the predominant motivating factor and creative factor involved in our lives and in our experience as human beings. I want that more than anything. I want to stop the nonsense of being controlled by demonically inspired beings, whether they're terrestrial or extraterrestrial makes no difference. They exist. Their influence exists. And they have power, not because we believe they have power, but because we experience the brunt force and then the activity of their power in demonstration. And demonstration, again, has demon in it. And we need to have that turned around. As I said, we live in interesting times. And may these be times of awakening. I believe they are. I believe people around the world are waking up to the reality that we've been lied to, and our whole lives have been built not on truth, but on fiction, on lies. I pray that this is in the process of turning around and that the process is hastened and comes quickly. Thank you for listening, and namaste.